Imagine a high-speed, head-on collision. But, instead of cars, it's the federal government and a state governor just hurtling toward each other.
Right, and the intersection where this massive crash is happening, it isn't a highway. It's an obscure, really quiet state pardon boardroom.
Exactly. Right now, in Minnesota, Governor Tim Walz is using the state's highest clemency powers to pardon convicted immigrants. And it is explicitly to rip them right out of the hands of ICE and, stop their imminent deportations.
It's an absolutely fierce political and legal coalition, just completely unprecedented.
Yeah, and we are going to dive deep into exactly how that machinery works. But before we get into all of that, please take a second to like, subscribe, follow, and hit the notification bell so you can stay updated on these deep dives. We really rely on your support.
Oh, and a quick legal update for everyone monitoring the Martin Stevens versus OpenAI matter.
Right. And just to be clear, that is not a lawsuit. We're currently in a voluntary quiet period at Martin's request to idle releasing public info. We're hoping for background settlement work, though honestly, we don't know if any progress has been made.
Yeah, and finally, we can confirm that the dead man switch hasn't been activated, so Martin is physically and legally safe.
Okay, so getting into today's mission, we are unpacking how state pardon laws are clashing with federal immigration enforcement. And we've got a lot of sources today. Legal presentations, court rulings like Schaefer versus Ellison, and news reports from CBS, FOX9, Town Hall, and Independent Journal Review.
It is a really wide spectrum of reporting. And looking at the sources, there's a lot of highly politically charged content here from both the left and the right.
Which is why I need to make this crystal clear to you, the listener. We are never going to take sides on these deep dives. We're just impartially reporting the content provided. We're not endorsing the viewpoints. We're simply conveying the ideas that are in the original source material.
Right, just laying out the facts as they are.
Exactly. So let's start with the basics. How does a governor actually pardon someone in Minnesota? I mean, is it just signing a piece of paper on a desk?
You would think so, but no, far from it. Unlike the president, who can pardon unilaterally, Minnesota has this strict board system. The Minnesota Board of Pardons consists of exactly 3 people.
Just 3?
Just 3. It's the governor, the state attorney general, and the chief justice of the state Supreme Court.
Oh, wow. So you've got the executive branch and the judicial branch just sitting at the same table.
Yeah, and the dynamic between those 3 specific seats creates a massive bottleneck.
But how hard is it to actually get those 3 to agree? I mean, if a governor has enough political capital, couldn't they just push it through?
Well, the friction is built directly into the law itself. Because under their rules, a pardon requires a unanimous vote.
Wait, unanimous?
Unanimous.
Yeah.
If one person votes no, it fails. And to show you how difficult that is, look at the 2022 Supreme Court case from our sources, Schaefer versus Ellison. Amrei Schaefer was a domestic abuse victim convicted of manslaughter.
Right, because she argued self-defense, but the judge ruled the force she used was excessive.
Exactly. So while she's in prison, the Department of Homeland Security orders her to be removed to Ethiopia. She applied for a pardon because going back there meant returning to her abuser's family, who had literally sworn to kill her.
So it was essentially a death sentence.
Right. And Governor Walz voted yes on the pardon. Attorney General Keith Ellison voted yes.
Oh.
But the Chief Justice at the time voted no.
Okay, let's unpack this. It's basically like a nuclear missile launch sequence, right?
Yeah.
Both the governor and the board have what you'd call an insufficient but necessary power.
I like that analogy.
Yeah, I mean, you need all the keys turned at the exact same time to launch the pardon. 2 out of 3 isn't enough.
The silo doors stay shut. Schaefer actually sued, arguing that giving a judge a veto over an executive power was unconstitutional, but the court ruled the unanimity requirement is absolutely constitutional.
So the governor is totally handcuffed without the board. But wait, I need to push back here for a second. If ICE is operating under federal immigration law, isn't the state just blatantly obstructing federal law enforcement? Like, how is it even legal to just erase a federal target on someone's back?
Right, and to understand that, we have to look at the legal presentation in our sources from an immigration attorney. It outlines the mechanism that actually allows states to override a federal deportation. It's under the Immigration and Nationality Act.
INA 237, right?
Exactly. INA 237 has this pardon waiver clause.
So Congress literally wrote a loophole into the federal law.
They did. It goes back to federalism. The federal government uses state convictions to justify deporting someone. But Congress historically recognized that states have the sovereign right to grant clemency. So if you get a full and unconditional pardon from a governor, it legally erases the federal basis for deportation.
Oh, it's like pulling a Jenga block out from the bottom of ICE's legal case.
That is exactly what it is.
Once the state removes that foundational block, which is the underlying conviction, the whole federal deportation order just collapses.
The feds suddenly lose their statutory footing, at least for certain crimes.
Right.
And understanding that strict requirement for unanimity is crucial because it takes incredible political willpower to execute what happened next.
Right, which brings us to the flashpoint. This whole process was forced into overdrive because of Operation Metro Surge?
Yeah, this was an ICE initiative in the Minneapolis area.
And from the sources, this was a sweep meant to clear backlogs of people who already had final orders of removal, especially targeting anyone with a criminal record, even if that record was decades old.
And that operation swept up two men who became the center of this entire crisis, at Ricky Shandy and Shai Vang. Both of them are refugees from Laos.
Let's talk about Shandy first. The CBS News and Fox 9 reports say his conviction was an assault from 1992 when he was just 18.
Right.
So if he had a removable offense from 1992, why is he still living in the U.S. decades later?
Well, it was a weird diplomatic situation. After he served his time, the U.S. literally couldn't deport him because Laos wasn't accepting deportees after the secret war.
So the government just had nowhere to send him.
Exactly. So he stays under ICE supervision for 27 years. He works as an engineering technician for the city of Minneapolis. He raises a family. His son is literally in the U.S. Air Force.
Wow. And then suddenly, boom, he's detained by ICE during this Metro surge, and ICE moves to deport him immediately.
Yeah, they scheduled his flight before the pardon board's next regular meeting. So Governor Walz was basically forced to call an emergency meeting of the Board of Pardons literally the day before Shandy was supposed to be put on a plane.
And as we talked about, getting those 3 nuclear launch keys turned is incredibly difficult.
But they did it. Governor Walz, Attorney General Ellison, and the new Chief Justice, Natalie Hudson, unanimously pardoned him.
And that triggers the INA 237 waiver, blocking the removal.
Exactly. And they did the exact same thing for Jai Vang. Vang had a conviction for aiding and abetting armed robbery in 1994.
Also at 18 years old.
Right. And he had since become a local painter and carpenter. He was taken into custody in May, and again Walz calls a special session, and again they vote unanimously to pardon him to stop the deportation.
But wait, if these guys have been living crime-free for decades, why is ICE coming after them right now, and why did the federal government react with such intense hostility to these state pardons?
Well, what's fascinating here is the massive factual clash that happened next. DHS didn't just walk away. They claimed, publicly, that Shandy had 2 more recent felony assault convictions from 2008.
Wait, really?
That's what DHS alleged. But CBS News actually dug into this. They checked state and federal court records and found absolutely 0 2008 convictions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the state's Clemency Review Commission had already run extensive background checks. The only thing on his record since 1992 was a ticket for improper parking in 2006.
A parking ticket. So the federal government is saying he's a repeat violent offender, and the state is saying his worst crime in almost 30 years is a parking ticket. Did DHS ever back up their claim?
No, CBS asked for evidence, and at the time of publication, DHS hadn't provided any.
That is wild. I mean, it's no wonder the federal fury was so intense. Let's look at the rhetoric from the sources, because it is explosive.
Oh, totally. The acting assistant secretary of DHS, Lauren Bez, issued a statement calling the pardon absolute insanity, in all caps. She called Shandy a violent thug and blasted what she called Minnesota's sanctuary politicians.
And Governor Walz fired back just as hard. He accused the federal government of a campaign of retribution, and then he famously compared ICE agents to a modern-day Gestapo.
Yeah, which drew a huge rebuke from acting ICE director Todd Lyons. Lyons told Walz that if he doesn't like federal laws, he should get Congress to change them, rather than likening officers to Nazis and putting them in danger while they do their jobs.
And the conservative media completely erupted over this, too, like looking at Town Hall and WFMD, and again, keeping strict neutrality here, just reporting what they said. They blasted this as a war on ICE.
Right. They argue the Democrats are prioritizing convicted criminals and illegal aliens over American citizens, basically just to resist President Trump's agenda.
And they jumped on a very specific moment during Vang's hearing. Walz inaccurately referred to Vang as a tax-paying citizen when arguing that his deportation would hurt the state's economy.
Which conservative sources quickly pointed out is completely false, legally speaking. Vang is an undocumented immigrant facing a final order of removal, not a citizen. They see that slip-up as proof that state politicians are intentionally blurring the lines to interfere with federal law enforcement.
So what does this all mean? It seems like this obscure state unanimity rule is suddenly a weapon in a massive national border debate.
It really is. It brings up a huge constitutional question. You have the state's sovereign right to define rehabilitation on one side and the federal government's mandate to enforce immigration law on the other.
It's just incredible. Two men from Laos end up at the center of a constitutional crisis.
It really leaves you with a provocative thought to mull over. If state governors start increasingly using their clemency powers to systematically dismantle these federal deportations, could this eventually force the Supreme Court to step in?
Like actually redefine the boundaries of state forgiveness versus federal supremacy.
Exactly. At what point does state clemency become an unconstitutional interference with federal operations?
That is definitely something to think about. A parking ticket and a three-person board might just change federal immigration enforcement forever. Well, we want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Please remember to like, subscribe, follow, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an analysis. We really appreciate you spending your time with us, and we will see you on the next deep dive.